What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and are you ready? We're starting up a new lunar cycle, and we're starting up in this I think is one of those kind of special lunar cycles. I mean, all of them can be special, but I was talking about this in the previous one too. There's something about where I think the first, when we have that first new moon in Aries, that's when the sun is exalted, and now we're in this new moon in Taurus, and this is where the moon is exalted, and the growing powers of the moon, and how really when we're in sync with the cycles and our in our own flow, how things just grow just effortlessly, or it just feels like we just start to enjoy the process more. There's a lot that we're gonna get into on this one today. I'm excited about this lunation. But before we get into that, if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And then when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and it should loves that. And this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Venus, wherever. This one's for you. Or if you just happen to just want to sync up with the moon, we can all benefit from that. But I also do tarot card spreads based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon, showing up again. Man. And I'll talk about what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it's going void, of course, just all them lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one, so take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope. Now, let's jump into it, because this is a really nice lunation here. I think I got a chart for you that we're going to look at too. Even the energies for how your general energy of the day, it's very Taurian and how the pace is going. But before we jump into that, depending on when you're watching this, happy Sunday. The sun is associated with, oddly enough, Sundays. That joke never gets old. But when we think about, when you think about the energy of the sun is that soul light, that vitality, the thing that just helps us just shine bright, that connection with source. And I think that Sundays are a great time for checking in with your energy levels. How have you been? The things that you've been doing, how have they been fueling you? Are there some more ways that you can incorporate more of your true self into your everyday, and whatever that looks like, making little small tasks for little projects of self-expression. It doesn't, whatever creativity looks like for you. This could be math, this could be art, this can be carpentry. Just, making things for time for things that just, again, that help you glow. I think that's a great way for working with the sun. But even during sun hours and things, maybe if you happen to have a doctor's appointment or thing, try to schedule them around a sun hour. See how that works for you there. But also too, one thing that I like working with on Sundays are thinking about my relationship with the sun. What, of course, basics like what sign it's in, what house it's in, do I have it natally, how do I deal with sun transits? With the sun transiting through Taurus right now, Taurus is an energy, is an active time in my chart. I have a lot of Leo placements. It activates my moon or my sun placement at some point. It hits my Saturn placement. So it's there's a lot of everything but my moon is being activated when planets are going through Taurus. So thinking about that, what do those energies mean for you? How do they show up for you? When the sun is transiting to transiting to placements, and even when there are aspects coming to your natal sun, how do, excuse me, how do you feel that? What insights come up for you there. Working with the solar return chart, I like looking at return charts too during these periods of time, so that way we're not just inundated and just oh my gosh, what I need to do here, what I need to do here. Just okay, let's just focus on the sun today. Let's just bask in the sunbathe for a little bit. That's what. So those are just some little things that I like doing for these little planetary days. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans. Because on the 27th of April, the moon is going to enter into Taurus at about 12:17 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time. And I'll get into the new moon phase in a minute. But like I said, this is the sign where the moon finds its exaltation. And when the luminaries or any celestial bodies is in a state of exaltation, this is where they're most celebrated. It's a little bit different than when when the moon's in Cancer. This is where the moon's qualities really shine bright. and like the highest vibrations are just easier to express in Taurus. Because when you think about Taurus, they're ruled by Venus, they're the fixed earth sign, they're receptive or yin in nature. And I really like to, I think of the earth signs, you of course you can relate them to the earth, but I think Taurus is, I think, the most connected to the cycle of nature and the creative powers that come from Venus, that fertile energy that I think Taurian energy has. That's why the moon, I think, does so well, because nature is in sync with the lunar cycles. I mean, the moon controls the tides, the animals. I've even heard where, like, when we have like eclipses and things, like the spiders will detach their webs and build a new one. The bees will stop vibrating for a moment and take like a moment of silence during the eclipse time, and then start back buzzing again. So it really talks about the harmony. I really think that I think that's what makes the moon in Taurus so great, where we really are working with such fertile energies. You know, Taurus to me is like the farmer archetype. You tend to the land, and yeah, it's hard work, but it's rewarding work. You know, you get out there. It's not even just rewarding for the land; it's rewarding for the body. It's getting the body moving, getting it active, keeping it in tune with the cycles. Oh, the sun's rising. I had to get up and catch as much light as possible to get the things that I want to get accomplished there. And that's something I would invite to explore, syncing up with nature. Since I've been like really kind of looking at the sky just personally, like I've been getting up with the sunrises. And even if I still am feeling maybe a little groggy at first, when that sun first peaks out, there's something that, I mean, the body just like comes to life. I'm like, I'll say sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'll do this, and then I'll go lie back down. But then I'm like, I see this, it's like, oh well, I'm energized, the sun's up, let's not waste this moment. So I think that this moon in Taurus, I think, would be a great energy for you, just again to kind of get in your flow and take things at nature's pace. You know, not going with, like, you know, I think sometimes with our culture too, we can get into such a expect immediate gratifications, things coming very fast. I mean, with like deliveries and AI robots and things just zipping around making things fast, but life doesn't always work like that. Things like really, if we want quality things, things take time to grow and to mature. And so, you know, I think that we're going to get into that definitely when we get into the general energy too. But let's talk about the new moon phase here, because depending on, again, when you're watching this, the moon is going to be at a new moon phase at about 12 hours later, at about 12:31 p.m. And again, that's Pacific time. And this is happening at 7 degrees and 46 minutes. So you're going to want to see where, if you have any planets or points around this degree, this lunation may be working with you more personally. You know, interestingly enough, this is perfect actually that this chart is for a Leo rising, because that's where my rising sign is. So I'll give you an example here of what working personally would look like for you. I have Mercury at 7 degrees 13 minutes of Leo. So this lunation is going to be squaring my Mercury. So there are going to be things like that I'm thinking about, as far as like it's activating my 10th house, both the sun and the moon. How do I want to grow my career? And that's something I've really been thinking about quite a lot here as of late. Where do I want to take my career? What kind of steps do I need to do? What sort of things do I need to master? Who do I need to connect with? What groups do I need to be involved with? What sort of money do I need to invest in? How do I get more things from, how do I receive more from patrons so that I can put more out, and just thinking about those sort of like, what sort of actions do I need to initiate, because this is activating, my first, this has happened on an angular house here, my between the angular points. So yeah, this is a kind of a big one, and this could be like, if you have Leo rising, this won't necessarily be like those specifics, but maybe questions about how you present yourself to the public. What are some things you want to be recognized for? What are some things you want to achieve? What are your ambitions? What does that next chapter of your life look like? Those may be some themes that come up for this lunation. And I think that would be perfect for. And again, wherever you're having this, look where you have 7 degrees of Taurus, and this is going to be that part of your chart where, again, the moon is doing great work here. And I think if you really work with this, you could really see something very, very tangible happen here. So, maybe make a little vision board there, or something, like kind of maybe put something aside there, set some intentions for this, maybe even some kind of long-term intentions if you want to work with this over a 2.5-year cycle when we're working with the moon there. So that, I actually think I'm going to probably do something like that. So, but the new moon happens when, as you see here, let me get my handy dandy drawer, and the new moon is what happens when the sun and the moon are all cozied up together. Look at them. And this is the seeding phase. This is where anytime this is where they're conjunct one another. And the conjunctions are fresh starts. It's new energy. This happens, one every month. And now we're thinking about those Taurian energies. So what are some things that you want to grow with Taurus? What is something that you want to materialize? What is something you want to really ground in? And again, this is not something with Taurus you're rushing. You're taking we Taurus, that's what I really appreciate about that energy. It's like, it's not one that you can't tell a tree to grow faster, and you can't tell a Taurus to move faster. So you might as well just go with the flow. And the nice thing about this too is that it's this lunation's kind of separating from Mars a little bit, who was, still squared by whole sign, but at least it's separating here from Mars. And this is eventually, what else do I want to, was there anything else I want to talk about here? Now, this is actually a pretty quiet lunation otherwise, but I do think that even though there may be a lot of like aspects or things going on here, I actually think that may be perfect for where the energies have been right now. Now, this is where the ground has settled. We've moved through eclipses, we've moved through several conjunctions, and now we're just in a place of like, okay, let's get back calm a little bit. Now that the dust has settled, we can see things a bit more clearly. Where do I want to go from here? What am I anticipating? This is a great time, I think, to really get excited and get yourself prepared to receive something. What does that look like for you? Because I say that because, let me get into the Sabian symbol. The Sabian symbol for this one is phase 38 of Taurus, and it speaks of a sleigh on land uncovered by snow. And the keynote for this is the value of anticipating and preparing for expectable conditions. So if you have any sort of things that you want to accomplish, like let's go back to let's say if you're Leo rising, let's say you're thinking about a career change. Okay, this is what I want to do. So how do I prepare for the snow? How do I prepare for this thing that I want to achieve? Okay, like if I want to become a dentist, then let me start getting some dental tools. Let me start investing into this. Let me start looking into different programs, different schools. Like, what would a dentist be doing every day? And then starting to embody that, incorporate that in your routine every day. Plant that seed and then see what happens. And I think that it's not like we're attaching like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna become a dentist. So, but it's more so like, okay, I'm just getting everything ready to receive when things start moving. So that way it's like we're focusing on the task so that we're not so heavily attached to the goal. I think there's something here about really enjoying the process that's happening here. Because in the northern hemisphere, we're getting ready to be in like summertime here in a minute. So there's no snow coming. not for the knocking on wood. There's no snow coming right now. So I think that it gives us time, and I really think that this is something where it doesn't have to seem so fanciful. Because Earth energy is a very practical energy, probably of the four elements. So really consider that, what are some things that you want to see growing over this next lunation and beyond, because that's what I really enjoy about Taurus. So I think they create things of just like long lasting beauty. So, but let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day here, because I think that was an interesting one too. I think you got some nice energies, nice messages that were coming through here. Even despite the message, you got hexagram 64, which is unfulfillment. And you got changing lines 2 and lines 4. So, and if you want to meditate on those lines, look into more thoroughly, kind of think about contemplate them. I have a link down for a website that has all the different I-Ching lines. You could definitely avail yourself of that and see how that resonates with you. But the second line talks about he lifted, and this is fire over water, by the way. And one thing that I was thinking about was like those opposing forces, fire and water. And that took me to the new moon, or excuse me, the full moon that'll happen later in Scorpio. And I would really use that as a marker to see where you're at as far as like the things that you're growing, and is this thing you're going to do what you think it's going to do here? Because I just got a flash of like the 7 of Pentacles kind of coming through here, which is like a patient energy. But The second line talks about he lifted the front tip of his sash. Good omen. And what I like about this is that gesture of the motion of just lifting the tip of his sash. It reminds me of just like the little things that we can do to create these sort of big motions. Like let's go back to the dentist thing. Let's say if I'm buying the different tools that I would need for this stuff. You know, I'm doing different research, looking at different literature, watching maybe different videos. I'm doing the homework. I'm doing all the things, and it's just like next thing you know, it's like one minute you were dreaming about it, and the next thing you're just like you're doing it. And it started with just all of those small steps. Like it just, again, like I think sometimes what can happen is that we can let the vision of the thing almost maybe deter us, you know, like, oh my gosh, what if this happens, this happens, this happens? Anything can happen. So it's just like, and that's nature. Anything can happen. You plant a seed, there's no guarantee that that plant's going to grow. You have to think about, okay, one, is it going to pop out of the ground? Did I do the right soil? Did I have enough nutrients? And then if it peeks through, now it has to deal with the elements. Is it getting too much sun? Is it not getting enough sun? Too much water? Not enough water? Go away, rabbits. You know, like there's a lot that I think can happen in this. But if we just go one day at a time, you know, one moment at a time, and we'll deal with things as we go. I find that we can be more adaptable than we realize. Even though fixed energy, you know, can get this thing of like where they don't like to change, and that, you know, they like things a certain type of way. I think that one thing too is that to keep in mind is that the fixed signs are resilient, and that they will persevere even through what may seem like a bit of a shakeup at first. But that just shows to their staying power. They're like, okay, this is one of them challenges, but and that's just, I think it's something to think about there. Like, not to overwhelm yourself with whatever it is, especially if you've not been feeling this sense of fulfillment. I think this lunation is really, really great for just like filling up your cups. Ace of Cups just really kind of popped in there too. Now let's talk about the next line, which is line 4, speaks of another good omen. And it says, regret disappears. Shinn led against Devil's land. And it says, in 3 years he was rewarded in the great kingdom. Now, when it talks about, there's just a little backstory here. Shinn led against against Devil's Land. Shinn was apparently a general of Zhao who fought for King Wu Ding Wu Ding of Shang, and the Great Kingdom refers to that to Shang. But it talks about here where, you know, this is a good omen to go ahead and anything that how do I want to word this? You don't want to look back and think, man, I wish I would have started this thing sooner. I think those sort of things that you've been kind of putting off and maybe putting off and putting off, make them happen. Let the regrets disappear. Go ahead and go against the Devil's Land, you know, those doubts and things. That's even interesting. Even like devil energy is kind of coming through there, but like in the ways of like things that may be impeding your process here, the pressure of the work that it takes to get things done. Because who knows, whatever this dream is that you're talking about, it might take 3 years before you see any sort of reward. But it's going to be, you're going to be rewarded in like, when it speaks of that great kingdom, I really get this vision of kind of like of spirit, of that higher source that you connect with. And like it's like when you feel like you're in alignment and you really see the feedback, the positive feedback of your work. I think that there's nothing that beats any sort of tangible thing, you know, that sense of like accomplishment and knowing that, like, man, if I did this, like I can do more, you know, I can push this again and then push this further here. So yeah, that's just some things I think to think about. We're in a time of, yeah, really kind of being more actively involved in the experience here. Not just that, you know, I get where we have things that we're doing the day to day, but there are ways to break up that sort of monotony, you know, and to bring in more of a sense of fulfillment, even with the obligations that you might have as well. So that's just, I think, just an invitation there from Spirit. But let's get a little bit of tea here, and then let's get into the tarot. Now, with the tarot, what I'm going to do here is Oh, actually, what I'm going to do here is tell you first that a couple things. These readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. But also, I'm going to be talking about things such as like medical advice or financial matters, legal matters, romance. But these are by no means professional advice. Talk to your therapist, your doctors, your lawyers, your financial advisors, all those people. I'm all about that. But I'm going to be pulling 6 cards, and they're going to cover different themes. And I'm going to get clarifiers for card 2 and card 4, considering those were your changing lines. And the first card is going to deal with any sort of like short-term money matters or things along those lines. So let's see what's going on with the monies. Interesting. All right, so you got the Three of Wands in reverse here. And this to me, it's like we're waiting on some sort of, maybe waiting on like, we put this. It's almost giving me this energy if you have invested in something, you just like you're put in for this business venture, and it's just like now we're in that game. We're sort of like this waiting process here. Maybe there's a little bit of doubt. It's like, is this the right choice here? Did I make the right investment? But I think that there's something here in checking that, like, if this was in alignment, if this feels in alignment again, just give it some time, especially if you just started on some sort of like business venture or anything along those lines. It just may be some other connecting forces that are waiting out here. Maybe we're waiting on some sort of like, maybe and that might be too. Maybe we're waiting on some sort of like payment possibly here, anticipating like maybe you've got like a new client or something along those lines is kind of coming up here. But it's just like, okay, when's that thing gonna come in? When's that check gonna clear? When's that contract gonna come through? When's that thing gonna kind of come to fruition here? But I'm getting an energy of all is, we got good omens here. So it's just all is well. Just I think it's just giving it some time. I am getting like if it's been if there's been like a depending on the amount of time that's gone by, I'm getting a follow up energy, because maybe it's just like maybe life just happened, things got in the way. Just like, oh my gosh, did that not send through? Let me check something here. Or maybe even that's interesting. I'm even getting like maybe there's like a decline with the process that happens, but it seems like it's something that could be easily resolved there. Now another thing with the Three of Wands is what I'm getting is, do you feel like this feels like an invitation to go out and do something more, to see? Because look at that, this person here is looking out over these horizons, these boats that are traveling on this water here. It looks like the water's reflecting gold right now, and I think that there's something out here to explore. This is the sun in Aries, the Three of Wands here, where the sun's exalted while we're talking about exalted planets. So it's like, how do we take that fire from Aries again, and now how do you pull it into this new energy that's coming through here? And we're not necessarily doing something yet, but it's just like maybe just like entertaining the idea of maybe some sort of like, again, small investment, and see where that leads you. For example, I'm working on getting some music back in the mix here. So I got like a stand and a metronome that should be here any moment. So I'm waiting on ships. But that's just something that could be. Oh, that might be something too. I even got just like a little bit there, just like checking in on maybe some sort of like, that's interesting. Checking on like a package or something along those lines. Maybe making sure before you send out stuff, maybe checking like shipping labels and things like that. And yeah, just having tracking numbers and things. That's just another little sort of side message that's coming through there. All right, but let's go ahead and get into your next energy, which talks about any sort of like medical matters and things along those lines. Let's see how the body's doing. All right, so you got the two of swords here, and that's interesting. We got this little waning moon, or not waning moon. We got a waxing moon over here, and this to me is like there's some sort of decision that's needing to be made here. I'm getting an interesting message of, especially when it talks about that regrets disappear. I think there's something here about a message of facing something, even if that you may not think of the news as maybe a good omen. The good omen might just be just the knowledge of something. Maybe you've been uncertain about a whatever, you've been feeling something off in the body, and it's just like hasn't been able to, whatever that might be. I think that sometimes if we don't check something, the imagination can maybe run a bit wild, or that's just a message that's kind of coming through there. I am getting a thing too of paying attention to, and it's almost like I like how this, it's like how this figure is blindfolded here. I think that there's a thing of like really kind of tuning into a little bit deeper into the body and paying attention to how the maybe external things may be throwing it's like throwing the body out of balance. Maybe there's some sort of like impulse decisions that are coming in where maybe like I'm getting like maybe like an impulse eating, or certain things that feel out of our control. But if we were to maybe see that, or not even see that, it's like feel it from a different way or from a different perspective, that can get where we can make more conscious choices and introduce a bit more kind of mindfulness, I think, with this two of swords energy as well. But let's get a clarifier on that. So you have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse here. You know, when I to me, this is something is depleting the resources. The Queen of Pentacles is a very resourceful figure. And I think that there's something here about looking at what's been kind of draining the body of its resources possibly. I think that this could really be looking into, again, maybe how you're maybe be fueling the body. Maybe if there's a lot of processed foods that you're eating, trying to balance that out a bit more with some home cooked meals possibly here, because the Queen of Pentacles is a very kind of nurturing figure, nourishing figure, someone who wants people to feel taken care of, feel, and that might be something too. Maybe this Queen of Pentacles has been giving a lot to others, but maybe some trouble giving to herself possibly here. That might be something that's coming through there, and making more why, like, maybe even making it, looking at maybe why is it hard for maybe for you to take some time, for you to, maybe you feel like you can't rest, like that you have to keep going, otherwise you're gonna run out of, like, that's interesting energy there. Yeah, that's something to think about. And I'm even getting like a scene where maybe even like the I'm even getting like a message of looking at maybe some of the recommendations that maybe a doctor or a healer may have made, and getting some sort of like second opinion possibly here. That's another energy that's coming through. Maybe you don't care for how the resources maybe you've been putting into something, maybe the results aren't what you want, and we're on this fence of like, do I change this thing? I'm supposed to give this some time, but it's just like I'm not, things aren't feeling right. And yeah, so that might be another thing where you might need to get like just a second opinion, get some like, so yeah, just like an additional consultation, or just if you're feeling, because I think that that's within you. If no one should feel any type of way about getting just some extra clarity there. All right, but let's get into your next card here, which talks about any sort of like legal matters or social affairs that's going on there. Let's see what's going on with that. I see you got the Knight of Wands up right here. And to me, this one is, I think, as far as like the social affairs, I think this would be a great time to maybe get yourself out there, maybe even getting yourself not just like, I think, just not out there just randomly. I think it's really being conscious about being around people who inspire you, who fuel your energy, who's ready to go out on this adventure here. That might be something that may be even kind of going back to where this kind of queen, this two of swords, and clarified by the two of pentacles or queen of pentacles here, where it's like, we're looking at how we've been spending our time, and it's just like, yeah, these energies have been depleting me. I've been feeling maybe at this sort of like stagnant, it's maybe stagnant place here now. Yeah, just want a little more, yeah, something a little more inspiring, a little more some kind of oomph that's going on with this Knight of Wands here. Someone who can maybe, yeah, just kind of, yeah, get the energies moving here. That's even interesting too, even in terms of like legal matters. I think that there's this need, I think, maybe of finding someone who's ready to like go to bat for you possibly here. I mean, like, if you need some sort of like legal advice or things, there's a real strong passionate energy that I'm really kind of picking up about the Knight of Wands. Like, it's like looking at, like, analyzing like how passionate maybe someone is about their work possibly before you invest in like some sort of like service, even maybe here, like make some sort of like investment. Like that's an interesting energy that's coming through there as well with the Knight of Wands. But yeah, this to me could be very exciting energy, very kind of like socially there. It's there for sure. The Knight of Wands too is one that really likes to. It's all about competition, likes to win, and I think that there's this thing almost like about a not backing down, especially if we're talking about maybe with like legal affairs. Of course, pay attention to the advice of your counsels or anything like that. But I think that there's this thing of not letting someone bully you or like kind of push you around, or really think like maybe someone's been kind of strong arming you or things like that. It's like coming with a bit more fire, as that makes sense for your situation. But let's go ahead and get into your fourth card here, which talks about any sort of like romance or romantic matters, marriage, things along those lines. See what's going on in the partnerships. So you got the Two of Pentacles here. And I think with this, in reverse here, and this one feels like there's this growth that, when we're going back to the hexagrams for a minute, thinking about like the steps that we're taking, the growth that's happening, maybe the endeavors that are going on there. There may be this energy of trying to figure out how to balance, like, maybe you're wanting to work on your career, but you're also maybe open to a relationship, and it's like we're trying to figure out how to juggle all of the things here. And I think that there's a thing here about trying to do too much. I think that and that's an interesting message. It's not like ambition is nice, but you just I think it's just like, don't overwhelm yourself. You want to put into wherever you pour your energy into, you want to make sure that it's quality here. And that might be too, going back to this Two of Swords. Maybe maybe this is coming up as stress. We're not quite sure where to balance the things. Maybe we're feeling that sense of time. Maybe that's coming on there, and everything's feeling urgent right now. And I'm just getting like, if that's something that's coming up, maybe if you need something to help you get grounded in that. Again, looking at your chart, looking to see where you have Taurus in what house you have, or houses you have Taurus in, and maybe that can something to help you give you like a more of a thing to kind of hone in on right now. It's like I was telling you, like, there's stuff in like shared resources and like the career space, some stuff. And now Mars is going through my first house, beginning of all action. So there's a mix of energies. Jupiter still in like the friends and associate things. So it helps you where it's like, okay, okay, I'm not tackling all 12 houses at once. I'm working on we got like 4 kind of topics active right now. That seems more manageable here. So that's just what I'm getting here. I, you know, there's a juggling aspect that goes with the 2 of Pentacles. So I would say if we're, just be mindful. If we have partners, we got the Knight of Wands here, making sure that we're just communicating. I think, just like, and it's just for safety reasons, for safety, for health. I think it's only fair that all parties are just like in the know. I think that's just just take that how that resonates. So, but let's get a clarifier on this 2 of Pentacles. Let's see what's going on with that. Ooh, a lot of queens in reverse here. Again, so that's an omen. just a sidebar. But you got the Queen of Cups in reverse here. And that's interesting because I was looking at those waves while I was kind of shuffling for that, how the water here is just like kind of really kind of oscillating, going up and down. The waves are, and like again, kind of calls back to that moon energy, how it controls the tides here. And maybe there's something before. And I think with the Queen of Cups, maybe there's something here where maybe we're still maybe in the process of, like, you're processing something here. Maybe you just got out of a relationship with the Queen of Pentacles, and maybe the Queen of Cups is feeling it, but you're just like, hey, I'm still kind of, can we give this, maybe take this thing slow right now? I don't want to come in just like bringing like not having like addressed any sort of like patterns or things along those lines, because what'll happen is it'll come into the Queen of Cups relationship, the things that maybe weren't dealt with the Queen of Pentacles. And that's just one example here. And that might be something to another thing. Maybe there's a lot of, because the Queen of Cups, sometimes I think with her being in reverse, there emotional manipulation comes up, and I can take that as a number of ways. There could be some legitimate, just like, maybe someone here is like trying to weigh like whose project is more important right now. Maybe a couple people feeling, maybe you got a couple Leo risings, we're both feeling ambitious, and it's just like, no, my thing is more, and I think that maybe there's a trying to reconcile those 2 energies where it's like, we can both do this thing, because when we're both growing, and maybe we need to do some separate, we may need to be kind of rolling solo a little bit, not like that we're separating, but we're just more kind of doing some independent work, as opposed to maybe more kind of like who's supporting who in a sense there. I think that there's a way to find a happy medium here, maybe to manipulate the emotions in a more towards a way of collaboration as opposed to dissonance. I think is what this Queen of Cups is giving me as well here. And that might be something too. Maybe you haven't been, maybe been really busy, tied up with one sort of thing, and something has been neglected. So I would just say, just making sure to just give. It can be, I think it can feel kind of challenging, like balancing all of the things. But, so there's sometimes some things that can get a break there. I think about, I get like this sometimes where I'm like, oh, I got to get all these videos done. I got to do this thing. I got to do that thing. But then I also got to make sure that I'm connected with friends. And I also got to make sure I'm tending to my relationship. And then how's the family? And then, and that's why I work with the astrology. It's all built in there for me. But yeah, there's just some things that's just kind of coming through there as well with that kind of energy. Now let's get into the 5th card here, which talks about any sort of immediately pressing affairs. Let's see what's going on there. Yeah, you got quite a bit of people showing up here. So you got the King of Swords in reverse here. And this to me is really kind of maybe looking back, because I'm getting like maybe a lesson has been missed here, or there's some sort of like a knowledge that's been missed, like a need to kind of reflect. Like, let's say if you got out of a relationship with the Queen of Pentacles, you jumped in with the Queen of Cups, and now you're noticing a similar thing that's happened here. That's probably because there's something that's not being acknowledged that we keep missing here, and it keeps coming up through other people. You got now we got queen, queen, and now you thought you'd switch it up, get a king, and nope, he still got issues with what you're doing too. It don't matter where you go, it finds those issues find a way to come up here. So that's just something that I did. This King of Swords is giving me. Yeah, that's all that King of Swords is giving me. That's, yeah, just looking at where we may be repeating things, where we've been in this sort of states of unfulfillment. And now's the time, I think, to see where we can start again, taking those little steps to make some sort of adjustments here. When you think about wisdom, wisdom is, the knowledge that you've learned and putting it into application, because otherwise you just know a bunch of stuff with the King of Swords. But they don't, but, again, if you don't do anything, then it's just, just taking up space. But let's get into your last card here, which talks about the destiny or the karma of the situation. So you got the Eight of Swords here. And I think that there is this doesn't necessarily just give me like a stuck energy. I think that it's giving me more of a, it's almost like restricting oneself. It's like maybe you've had a certain thought that you can only do work within these sort of parameters to do something here. But the Eight of Swords can be this sort of just like, again, just how we can get in our own sort of way here. And I think that if we were to look back maybe to whatever this lesson is or this message from the King of Swords, that what's coming through, we can figure out how to get maybe out of this maybe kind of stuck place right now. And then again, it's not like, and it's not stuck. Like that's not quite what the word is, sticking. It feels not uncertain. It's an interesting energy, like a stillness that's maybe kind of happening right now, to quiet the mind. Like maybe this, like she's got her eyes closed, she's got her arms bound. This is like in a way of sort of like a sensory deprivation. I'm not saying we do that, but maybe like you take a bath and like maybe just do it with candlelight, or maybe this could be maybe doing like a fast, and maybe doing like some sort of like meditation, maybe getting some sort of like prayer to kind of quiet the mind so we can get an indication as far as like where to go next. Like what is it that I need to, like where's this, where the energy's moving to right now. Yeah, but I think that's all I got for you there. So let's go ahead and get some advice from Venus. Oh, you know what? One thing I wanted to mention, but actually, I can talk about this while I'm talking about this card too. So you got the Six of Swords here, and let's go ahead and switch over. I was thinking too with this lunation, because I knew there was something else I wanted to talk about on the chart. This is happening right before, Venus is in charge of this lunation, and Venus is exalted as well in Pisces right now. She's getting ready to move out of there here soon. But the advice for Venus is thinking about, we're moving into new horizons here. There's something that is expanding right now. This is a time, I think, to, on your journey, what is your North Star right now? Where do you feel you're trying to go? And there might be some things that while you're going on this trip that you're going to maybe need to, not just like, it's not just in a way of letting go or clearing out things. We're clearing out stuff so that we can make more space for fresher things, newer things, experiences to come into the mix here with the Six of Swords. And I think that this is an invitation to it's like again to see where we've been, what's been maybe keeping us stuck, because the thing is they got these swords here that's in this boat, and so it's like they're bringing some stuff with them, and it's like I think instead of like it with the thoughts, it's like you don't want to bring regrets into this new experience here. So I think that there's something that in order to get this flow going, we have to look back at what's been restricting here, what's been the lessons. You do, as I'm pulling them up, you do got quite a bit of sword energy that's good, that's kind of coming through here. But now it gives me like there's been a lot of thinking and maybe more tangible things that maybe need to get done here. But it is something I think to ponder. But if you, oh, look at that, 222 on the clock. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know somebody who can get some, all right, that's fine. I think I know why that does that. But share this if you know somebody who can get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there. What are you going to be today? You Knight of Wands. Hit that bell button. You get notified when I release videos each day. And then I'm going to get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to know what's going on with the other celestial bodies in the sky, there's a link from my other channel, The Alchemist 8, where I talk about the weekly transits and just like how to work with those energies. What are some practical things to do with them? I also have these videos where I'm doing like different planets in different signs in different houses, and just like my thoughts on them, just some things to just kind of reflect on there, and for you to just like share your insights as well. I've been getting like a lot of commentary there on that, and that's been really nice. I've been appreciating people to just kind of chatting with people, seeing what placements are who's watching, what energies am I attracting. Oh. Okay, we got a lot of energy here we got to talk about, but yes, that's a thing as well. So let's go ahead and get into your surprise cards here, because the got a lot. Got 3 cards here. How fascinating. Okay, so you have the Dharma card here, which when we're talking about, I'm going to break these down one at a time. You got the Dharma, you have the calling of the soul, and then you have the karma card here. Now, when we talk about Dharma, the Dharma speaks about living out those inner callings, the visions, the ideas, the inspirations, and we were talking about that with the Sabian symbol. What do you want to manifest? How do you make that true will that we felt in Aries, that fire that we felt? Now, how do we grow that in Taurus? The soul, the soul is calling, it's beckoning. And I think that with the karma, the actions and the inactions, everything has a consequence to it. And it's like, do you when we kind of circle back to your hexagram, it's like, do we want to be in this place where we regret things, or do we want the regrets to disappear? Because I find when we do the soul calling, then we can say, like, at least I did this thing. We may not have gotten everything that I wanted to accomplish, but I was going towards that. That's where my ship was sailing. So I think that's a really important question as we go into this lunar cycle here. How is your soul coming? So something's growing, something's coming to manifest here. And the question is, where do you want to put your resources? Where do you want to put your energies into? You got choices with that 2 of Swords, 2 of Pentacles. So, and is trying not to let maybe the overthinking get in the way with the 8 of Swords here. That might be what that kind of energy that I was feeling there too. So yeah, that's interesting how these all really kind of correlate very nicely together. So something I think to really kind of meditate on. But that's all I got for you. So until next time, and let me see actually when I'm going to catch you. Stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon. Well, not right now. It's a new moon. And I will catch you on the next one. Moon Day.